stop giving it away and start bringing it back in and acknowledging and taking action on the things you want.
Hello, my love. Welcome back to the Arouse podcast for another episode. And if you're new around here, welcome. I'm Samantha Pop, your host and personal life coach. Today's episode is from my summit back in 2020, the Women's Confidence Summit. And today I have special guest Cara Wray. And in this interview, she talks about overcoming your limiting beliefs with confidence. So let's get into all the tea. Warning, the following presentation is intended for mature audiences. It includes stigma topics like sex, addictions, mental illness, adult dialogue, and strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. Cara is one of the co-founders of Brave Her, and she's a success coach. But Cara, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so first off, thank you, Sam, for inviting me to be a part of the summit. This has been incredible so far. And a little bit more about me. So I am a mother, and I'm a stepmother to 4 children. So our oldest is 13 and our youngest is 1. So there's quite the difference between their ages. And I am a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm multi-passionate, and what's really, I think it's really cool is that, like Sam said, I'm one of the co-founders of Brave Her. The other co-founder is actually my mother, Gina Bell. And so we've really co-collaborated and really put together something really incredible for women just as a collective. And I'm very blunt, very honest, and I like to have a lot of fun. So that's just a bit about me, and I love red lipstick.
Why do you believe it's important for women to build their confidence?
Okay, so I love this question, and I love that you've been asking the guest expert this question specifically, is because I believe that without confidence, you lack the courage to take action on the things that you really want to do in this world, because you ultimately end up in your own way. And so confidence in regards to taking action and doing the thing and to having conversation, whatever that looks like, confidence is requirement in order for you to get further. And so confidence, to me, is another version of courage, and confidence gives you the courage to take those leaps of faith and to ultimately also believe in yourself, which we will dive much deeper into throughout this conversation. But that's really what I believe, confidence is, I guess.
Yes, to taking leaps of faith and believing in yourself. I love that. I find that like when anyone takes a leap of faith, there's a little bit of fear involved, but like that's why it's a leap of faith, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly why confidence and courage, you need the courage to take that next step, but you also need the confidence in yourself to do that, right? So not only do you need the two, and the two really coincide really beautifully with each other, but it's so important to like believe in yourself and to believe in what it is that you want in this world, and to have the confidence behind those things, despite what other people have told you or what other people might think. Really, it's what do you believe? What do you have the confidence in? What are you going to take action? Like, what do you want for yourself? So yeah, confidence is such a beautiful conversation because there's so many facets to confidence. So this is a great conversation.
Okay, so Cara, what is the most confident thing you have ever done?
Okay. So I feel like there's a few things that I would say that took a lot of confidence, but one of the biggest things that really hits home for me, and probably one of the most confident things I ever did, was making the choice to become a step parent, was making the choice to love children who I didn't bear, to love children who had gone through trauma, who had gone through pain, who had gone through a deep sense of sadness. And there was a lot of responsibility there. And that required a lot of confidence in myself in order to love them and hold them in a space of where they're at. But most importantly, meet myself where I was at and acknowledge, some of like those dark parts that we have within ourselves, those things, that shadow work. And it had to be one of the most confident things I did, because I had to navigate toxic co-parenting at the beginning. I had to navigate learning how to believe in myself and stand up for myself despite things I was being told. I had to navigate conversations with friends and family members who thought that it was a waste of time. I had to really navigate conversations with my now husband. At the time was my boyfriend when I first met him. And there was a lot of confidence that really had to come behind that decision to love children and to create a family that, had been torn. So their family had been separated, right? And took a lot of confidence and a lot of love to help bring that back together and remind them what love really is and what a relationship and what structure, what groundness, what boundaries look like. And I want to say that's probably one of the most confident things I've ever done, was becoming a stepmom.
That is so beautiful. I love that about you and your story. For those that don't know, Cara and I were actually friends before we started working together, and I actually became friends with her husband before they got together, and that's how Cara and I met. So I've kind of been following her journey the whole time as she met Chris at the beginning, and it is really beautiful because she didn't have any of her own kids, and she took in his 2 kids as her own pretty much, and that is so beautiful because that is something that is I have no words for it, honestly, because it is just such a beautiful thing.
It's an act of selflessness, I want to say. It's also an act of extreme love, right? It takes you separating yourself from the anger, the hurt, the resentment, the things that had happened inside of, that previous relationship and that previous marriage. And it took a lot of navigating my own limiting beliefs that we'll be talking about here soon. And it took me navigating a lot of, beliefs or other people too. It was a big, big decision. And it's one, unfortunately, with society that is viewed as maybe sometimes not the right decision, or what are you doing? Why would you do something like that? And, I know that Sam knows this just from, the work that I've done, but I also believe in, standing up for co-parents and standing up for the step parents and really acknowledging the work and the love that they do and that they pour into these children, right? It's a huge act of self-love, but it takes a lot of confidence to actually get there and to stand up for yourself inside those dynamics too.
Cara and I have worked through my limiting beliefs, so I've struggled with those, but as well as self-doubt and imposter syndrome to work through that. But Cara, what do you find is the hardest part of all of those?
The hardest part of, you're talking about the comparison, right? There's a few different facets to this one, but I feel like when we fall into this imposter syndrome, or we listen to our limiting beliefs, we're really stripping away parts of who we are. We're allowing the beliefs potentially of other people, or the things that we've read, or the things that we've been told as a child, and we're taking them on as our truth when they're not even close to being what's true about ourselves. And what I feel like when we talk about imposter syndrome is, Sam's gonna know this one, I always say you are doing yourself a massive, massive disservice, because there is nobody else that has been placed on this planet that is you. There is nobody else that is going to do the things that you are going to do in this world. There is nobody else that is going to make the choices for you to believe or to pursue or to do whatever that looks like. That's up to you. And so comparing your journey, comparing your parenting, your business, your life, your marriage, your relationship to anybody else's is a disservice, because you need to meet yourself where you're at. In order for you to grow, in order for you to seek change, whatever that is, you actually need to meet yourself right where you're at, not where somebody else is at, not where somebody else is 10 years down the line. And, a big piece in this, maybe to reel it in for everybody, is when you're building a business or when you're wanting to create confidence, you might look at somebody else that has the 10K months, or you're looking at somebody who has the body that you desire, and you're comparing that. And all of a sudden you start thinking, well, I can't have that. My question to you is going to be, why do you think you can't have that? Who in this world told you that that's not possible for you? And it comes down to us believing in ourselves that we can actually create those things in our life. And then it requires us to actually take action on the things that we want. And so imposter syndrome, the self-doubt piece, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. But I want you to acknowledge where you're at and acknowledge the feelings and what you're feeling in order for you to actually move forward. Because if you don't acknowledge the feelings that you're feeling or the situation that's happening, you're not going to move past it. It's just going to keep resurfacing. It's just going to keep coming up. Self-doubt, limiting beliefs, as much as we like want to never have those in our life. They're going to come up. And it's the work. It's taking responsibility for where we're at, where we want to go, acknowledging it, processing it, sitting with it for a little bit, and then saying, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to acknowledge the things that come up along the way, but I'm going to do it. I hope that answered it nicely.
Yes, I loved all of that. And we've talked a lot about limiting beliefs, self-doubt, imposter syndrome in previous times. So this is just a wonderful reminder to me because, ladies, anyone who's watching, listening to this later on, it doesn't matter how much you build your confidence and work through these things. There's always going to be things that resurface, your limiting beliefs, your self-doubt, your imposter syndrome. Literally, all of them came up for me today, but all the inner work that I've done, it like cancels them out. And I'm like, no, like that's a lie. That's not my truth. I'm not going to allow that to be my truth. And you have to continue to work on it. It's not just going to just like your inner critic, which is something that I talk a lot about. It's still there and it can still come back and try and bug you, but you have to continue to work on yourself and work on those things so that it doesn't bug you as bad and then you can overcome it.
The really key piece that Sam just brought up there is that your limiting beliefs or beliefs or whatever you want to call it, the self-doubt, it will resurface. Like new situations, new opportunities, new fears, new doubts, they will surface. So this is like an evolution. This is a continuation of like growing in who we are. And it requires us to acknowledge the good and also, most importantly, to acknowledge what we might think is a bad situation, because not all the time it is. You know, when we talk about fear, we think about, like, if you could think about a situation that happened maybe like 5 years ago and you were just like crapping your pants, like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can have this conversation. I don't know. Like, I'm thinking back to when I was in high school and I would try out for like solo parts and music. I would legit be like sweating. I don't know if I can do this. Am I making the right choice? Like freaking out. My voice is like all over the place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to get myself together. And I think about it now and I'm like, why was I so worried about that? Like, why did that cause me so much stress? Or like a test you have to prepare yourself for, or even like a conversation such as this. I remember the first time I ever went on a conversation like this or was invited to a summit, I was like red. I had worn a shirt that was like up to here because purposely, like my chest was just like breaking out in hives. Like I was anxious. And so, you know, it's important that like we acknowledge those fears and we acknowledge those things, because right now in our current reality, they might seem daunting. They might seem like the worst thing possible. 5 years from now, they're going to seem very, very small, very, very small.
100%. Because I can guarantee that like any woman listening to this or watching this can look back and reminisce like you and be like, you know what? I don't know why I was so stressed out about that. Looking back, I didn't need to be. I didn't need to be so worried, but that's what working through your limiting beliefs and self-doubt does now, is then you can avoid situations like that when you get so anxious and worried that you avoid them.
100%.
So, I mean, you kind of did tell a little story about this, but when is a time that you've had an old limiting belief come up and how did you go about dealing with it?
Briefly talked about another story, but like I have a different one for this one. In regards to this story about having to overcome limiting beliefs, was not necessarily my own limiting belief. It was a belief that I had taken on as my own. And it actually came from my father. And love the man to pieces, love what he does in this world. Fortunately, at the time, it was a very small mindset in regards to what I was capable of doing or what was capable in his reality of doing. And the whole premise of the conversation was surrounding entrepreneurship, and it was surrounding creating my own business and creating my own lifestyle and really bringing that into fruition, like bringing that into my life. And I remember sharing, there was a mentor I was watching and I was so excited to watch what she was talking about. And I had looked over at him and I had talked to him about, I was like, look at this woman, like she is doing big things in this world, like things that I want to do. And I know I'm capable. And he looked at me and he was like, that's a bunch of fucking bullshit. And that's really fucking stupid. And I was like, what do you mean? And at the time, like I had already launched my business. Like I was in the launching phases. And he was like, entrepreneurship is stupid. It's bullshit. You're not going to get yourself anywhere. And he just went on this big tangent. I remember sitting there and usually I would say something right away. But I needed to sit and process what it was that he said, because at the time I took it very personally. I took it as like this personal attack, he didn't believe in me. He didn't believe in my dreams. And it was like a very victim type mentality for myself at the time. Growing up, my father had very much like, you need to work hard for your money. You need to go to school. You need to get an education. You need to work 9 to 5 and have benefits. There we go. You need to have all these things in place to have a good life. And I believed all those things, right? Like I believed that that's what I had to do in order to live a great life. And so as I was navigating entrepreneurship, I was like constantly bombarded with this. Can I do this? Is this possible? I don't think this is in my realm of possibility. I don't have a stable income. How am I going to support my family? How am I going to stay in my relationship? And like the things just kept coming. And I had to sit with myself one day, a little bit more of a backstory. My parents had separated when I was 5. And so my mother, which is Gina Bell, Gina Raylene, pardon me, she literally always taught me she was like that free bird spirit. Like, you got to spread your wings, baby. You got to fall. You got to jump over those cracks. And like, she was always the one who encouraged me to grow. And she also encouraged me to fail. That was huge because my father was so committed on me not failing, and that failure was a terrible thing, that I felt restrained and I felt like I couldn't be myself. Now that's a much different story. My father is, he doesn't necessarily talk about the things that I really do, but he also accepts them. Like he accepts that this is my reality and this is what I do for a living. But I had to really navigate this belief that I had that I needed my father's approval. This belief that I needed him to tell me that what I was doing was good, that what I was doing was great. And I had to let go of this need for his validation, this need for his approval. And I had to start believing that the only person that I needed that from was actually myself. The only person that I could give that to and who I needed that from was me the entire time. And what I then had to realize was that what was being portrayed and like projected onto me was actually his very own limiting beliefs of what was capable for him in his life and what he maybe didn't do. We're faced with those things a lot of the times when we're navigating different situations, having different conversations, seeing a difference in opinion. A lot of the time we're like not necessarily a mirrored reflection, but sometimes it's a mirrored reflection of what we don't want or the things that we're settling for. And my father was a mirror. I basically was mirroring to him the things that he might have potentially wanted in his life and the things that he didn't choose to go after and the things that he settled for. And so of course he didn't want to acknowledge that at the time, that, maybe it was him that was not happy with where he was. And I had to learn how to let all that go. Like I said, I had to acknowledge that the only person that could give me the validation and the belief behind the things that I was doing was me. The only person who could change the beliefs or the limiting beliefs that I had was me. And that was a choice. One other big thing was that I also chose, like this is a huge thing when it comes to beliefs, is that you not only choose what you believe, but you also choose what limits you. And it's so important that you acknowledge those things, because where we're at right now has been based off of hundreds of decisions that we have made or have not made. That is really kind of like my story in a nutshell about really how I had to navigate, the limiting beliefs or the projected limiting beliefs onto me, was very much through the relationship with my father, because I based a lot of value on his opinion. I really wanted his approval. I wanted him to say, you're doing great. I love you, baby girl. I'm so proud of you. I wanted to hear all those things. And I needed to realize that I was not necessarily going to hear the things that I wanted to hear, and I didn't have to.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love that you touched on that you valued his opinion, which of course we do with our parents. And sometimes then we accept some of their own beliefs as our own and we take those on as our truth, when you're right, because you only needed the permission from yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's what's most important, because as much as sometimes we might want permission from other people, we may never ever get that, but you can always get permission from yourself. And that is such a beautiful thing that you can gift to yourself.
I feel like that deserves like a slow clap, like one of those things. because it's true. You can always give it to yourself. That's a choice.
And Alicia has joined us. Hi, gorgeous. How are you?
Hello.
Okay, Cara. So what advice or encouragement would you give to someone struggling with their limiting beliefs right now?
Okay, y'all ready?
I'm ready. Give me all the goodness.
Okay, so what I actually really want to do is quickly go through a 5-step exercise that I actually have in regards to really acknowledging your limiting beliefs and then also flipping the script too. Okay, so literally step 1, guys, is making sure that you're grabbing yourself a journal, a working pen or pencil. Okay, this is important. I don't know how many times I've gone and grabbed a pen that did not work. So make sure you have that. But if you're, a technological, oh my goodness. If you prefer technology, then you can utilize the notes in your phone, okay? But ensure you have like a blank piece of paper. So that's literally step 1. Step 2 is I want you to ask yourself this question of what area of my life is currently making me feel unhappy, disappointed, frustrated, and or dissatisfied. So I'm going to repeat that again because this is really important. What area of my life is currently making me feel unhappy, disappointed, frustrated, and or dissatisfied? And I encourage you to really let it out and write it out. Like, this does not have to be perfect. Let's throw perfection out the door because really perfection doesn't exist. And so get it out and get whatever it is that you need out on paper. Like, what area of my life is currently causing me this discomfort? What is happening? Now, the third step is, this is really an important step, is asking yourself not only why is this happening? Why is this coming up for me? Why am I feeling this way? But also, what is actually triggering you? What in that situation is causing you to be angry, frustrated, worried, sad, whatever that looks like? And so ask yourself, why? Why do I feel this way? Why? We live in a society that has taught us to suppress our emotions, that has taught us to not acknowledge where we're at. And what I want you to do, and what I encourage you to do, is to actually acknowledge literally where you're at in this very moment and why you feel something. And I want you to remind yourself and tell yourself this: if you're feeling like, oh, maybe I shouldn't feel this way, your feelings are valid no matter what anybody tells you. No matter if you feel like you were blown off the deep end, no matter if you feel like you're, crying a lot, whatever it is, you're really emotional, your feelings are valid, right? Hashtag crier right here. But acknowledge that and stop making yourself feel like these emotions aren't valid. Stop allowing other people to also tell you that you shouldn't feel a certain way. Okay. You feel a certain way for a reason. And that's what we're trying to get to, right? We're trying to figure out why this is happening. The only way you're going to figure out why is actually acknowledging what's happening. Step 4 is now within that why and within that what is causing the trigger and why I'm feeling this specific way, you can now identify that limiting belief, that little thing that is just standing in your way or that is maybe holding you back. And that might present itself in a way as I can't, or I will, or I guess I'll try, or what if. So they're going to come up in those different ways. Like, what if I fail? What if I can't have this conversation? What if somebody ends up mad at me? I can't do this. I can't have the conversation. I can't take that next step. I can't do it. I couldn't tell you how many times I used to tell myself, I can't. This is also, pardon me, a beautiful exercise that you can also lead with your children if you have kids. My kids, my stepkids, they're where they're like, I can't do it. And every time they tell themselves that they can't do it, I am right back there and saying, you can. It's a choice. We choose to get up and we choose to do it again and we choose to make an effort every single day. I can't is a choice. I can't is something that you get to throw out of your vocabulary. I can't is something that I teach them that you can. And so every time they say I can't, I look at them, they're like, just kidding, I can. You can. Because I always want them to know in this world that they can do things that might seem hard, that might seem difficult, that might seem like they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I want them to know that they always can. And so step 5 is, now that you've acknowledged the emotion, acknowledged the what situation is happening. And you've also acknowledged the potential limiting belief, the I can't, the what if, or I'll try. Now you have an opportunity to take that statement, to take what it is you think you can't do, and now you get to replace it with what I call your beliefs and your new beliefs. And the things that you then will look at that I can't statement, and you're going to start telling yourself, I can have the tough conversation. I can homeschool my kids. I can have a thriving relationship with my spouse. I can have a lucrative business. Those things you would now start replacing instead of having the I can't, or the I'll try, or the what ifs. Because there's potential possibilities. Instead of saying, what if this negative thing happens, start saying, what if all these incredible things start happening in my life? What if everything I've ever dreamed of starts coming into fruition, starts coming into life? Now imagine that type of possibility. Imagine that world, and start focusing on the really good and the positive things that you want to bring into your life. Every time there is a limiting belief or something that is holding you back, I really encourage you to go through this exercise, literally follow step 1 to 5 and go through it and acknowledge yourself as to where you're at, and remind yourself that my feelings are valid. Who I am is valid. And another key piece is that abundance is your birthright. And by abundance, what I mean by that is that everything that you want in this world, everything that you currently have, has always been your birthright. You are allowed to have a thriving life. You are allowed to love yourself. You're allowed to feel confidence. You're allowed to be exactly who you are in this very moment without thinking that you are lesser than. And like I said before, your beliefs are a choice, and you choose to believe in yourself or you choose to limit yourself. And that is, there's a lot of power there. Like, you hold a lot of power in your life, and stop giving the power away to other people. Stop giving it away and start bringing it back in and acknowledging and taking action on the things you want.
Take action on what you want. Ask for all the things. Do all the things. Yes. Love it. Oh, I just love that you touched on that your feelings are valid, because that is something I know that I have struggled with believing ever since I was a child, and a lot of other women I have worked with, that I've talked to. We all collectively have this issue with thinking that, oh, just because I'm feeling this doesn't mean it's real. Yes, it is real. It is completely fucking real, and it is valid, and you need to recognize that it's real.
Yes, 100%. The acknowledgement piece, like we were saying before, is that we've lived in a society that has diminished feelings, that has diminished growth, that has diminished big dreams, big goals, big aspirations, and it's made them small. It's turned them into, we believe as a kid that we can do everything, and we can use our imagination in all these beautiful ways. And somewhere along the line, someone told us that we have to grow up, or that we have to be different, or that we have to do different in order to fit in this world. And I always say that you don't have to fit in. You never have to conform to fit in. There's always people in this world that will love you exactly where you are and where you're at. And there are always people in this world that are going to encourage and love and do all the beautiful things with you. And if you haven't found them yet, I just want you to know that they're there. Like, those people are there. I remember feeling so lonely as a child. I remember feeling like no one understood me. I remember feeling I was bullied. I was, just navigating divorce of parents, different life. And I remember just feeling so low about myself as a child. And but when I was much younger, there's those memories where I had a lot of fun, where I remember jumping in the leaves and, believing that I was going to be a veterinarian when I got older, and like all those different types of things. And so I always try to go back to that girl, the little girl that did believe in herself, the one that did see those big things, because that's who we're talking to, right? When I'm talking to my kids, I always want them to know, even if I get angry or even if I get upset, that I still love them, that my response is that what I do is my responsibility. I want them to always know that they're safe, that they're loved, that they're encouraged, and that they can do big things in this world, because they can. Went on a little tangent there, but
no, I love that, because we, like you kind of touched on this earlier, is you accept certain things that happened to you as a child as your truth. And for example, if you're like playing and making a lot of noise and screaming in the house, and then mom gets mad bed and she's like, stop doing that. Then you think, oh, well, I'm annoying, or like I shouldn't act like that and I shouldn't express myself. And it's like, oh, mom was just having a really bad day. She had a long day at work. She's exhausted. She's irritated. And that was just the thing that flipped her off. And it literally had nothing to do with the kid. It was just, she had that reaction. And then it then becomes this limiting belief in this little child. So I've had that happen. I know other women that have experienced this. And I love that you like bring that acknowledgement to it so that you can avoid that generational continuance with like those agreements that these children make because of what parents do. And it's not, I don't want to say it's the parents' fault, but they do need to take responsibility for their actions and make sure that they're encouraging and loving towards their children, because these limiting beliefs can happen as early as like 3 years old.
Yeah. Just to touch on that is that even on the days that are, incredible, amazing with my children is, yes, I am encouraging them. I want the best for them. Even on their lowest days, on the days where there might be negative behavior, on the days where they're having a rough day, I'm still encouraging them to be the best that they can be, to do big things in this world. And even, this is probably the most important for parents, is that even on the days when I overreact, when I have a negative response, where I lose my cool, you best believe I will sit down beside my children and I will apologize for my behavior. And I will tell them that my behavior is my responsibility and that I have to take responsibility for that, and that I have apologized to my kids. And there is nothing wrong with that, because that has built trust with my children, that has built belief, right, in the two of us. And that just because I'm an adult doesn't mean that my behavior is okay. Just because I'm an adult doesn't give me the right to yell, to scream, to whatever. And I have even when I've lost my cool between, being a parent to 4 kids, sometimes things get overwhelming. Like, I'd be lying if I said it didn't. And sometimes there's, we have a baby crying and then a toddler needing some love and affection. And I've lost it, and I've still apologized to my little one. So you hold a lot of power in the words that you say to yourself and the words that you say to others. So be mindful of that.
Exactly. And yeah, Dana just said we have such a huge responsibility as parents. And
even
though I'm not like a mom of like human children yet, I still try to make sure that I don't like lose my cool on my dog, because I used to do that with the pug. And then when she died, I had all the guilt come back, and I felt so bad about the way that I treated her some days on the like when I was exhausted, and would yell at her. And it's shown me so much about my own behavior. And I'm like, yeah, like that was wrong, and I can't do that, and I need to be more patient. And it's such a great learning experience, so that when I do have human children, so I can do something similar to you, that if I do lose my cool, then I can be like, you know what, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that, like that's not the truth. And that you can hopefully fix your mistake, and that it doesn't become a limiting belief for your child.
Well, and the thing is too, is that not only with kids, like kids and parenthood is one thing, but it's really important that we meet ourselves wherever we're at. And even in regards to our friendship, to our relationships, potentially with some family members, it's important that we're mindful of the way that we speak to them, or the way that they speak to us, and the courage that we have to have those conversations, or set those boundaries, and, to choose to believe what we do or what we don't. It takes a lot of, self, that commitment piece. Daria was talking about self-discipline today. It takes, making the choice that you're going to treat people with respect. You're going to treat people, and you're going to acknowledge your behavior when maybe your behavior wasn't always ideal.
So how can women build their confidence by challenging their limiting beliefs?
Okay. So now I love this question, because it's not necessarily about challenging, because it's not saying, oh, I have to do this, I can't feel this way, I have to do that, I can't feel like this. It's very much based off of, that exercise I was walking you guys through, is about acknowledging where you're at, and saying, okay, here's where I'm at. Now, where do I want to be? And looking at those two things and saying, okay, so I'm here, and this is how I feel. Now, what are some steps? What is a step I can take today to get myself to where I want to be? And it's acknowledging. I would say it's more acknowledging than really, challenging that. And I guess you could use it as challenging, where we're questioning like why we believe a certain thing or where we go with it. But I believe it gives a little bit more of a sense of openness when we look at it as acceptance. When we look at it as acknowledgement. Do we look at it as, okay, I'm here, I'm going to take this next step, and I'm going to get here. And so I just encourage you to always always acknowledge yourself, always take responsibility for your actions, for your inactions, and to really be mindful of the words you say to others, but most importantly, the words you say to yourself, and to also give yourself permission to just be. Sometimes we live in a world that there is so much going on in 2020. Okay, let's just call that spade a spade. Is that we need to acknowledge that we might not be okay with the way things are going. We might be really upset with how things have turned out. We might have felt a lot of stress. There might be a lot of hurt. And without actually sitting with those things, without actually processing, and that could take an hour, that could take a week, and that's okay. But sit with how you're feeling and then make a choice that I want more. Or what can I do to better the situation for myself? How can I support myself where I'm at and where I want to go? You hold the power of choice there, right? You get to choose if you want to remain stuck, and you get to choose if you want to take action. And I know that I always want to be the individual who says, I'm worthy of taking action. I can do these things. And I also want to be the person that always acknowledges and sits with my feelings for a little bit and realizes that I'm meant to feel that. I'm meant to know what is coming up for me. From there, you create a solution. From there, you create, a different outcome or a different belief.
I can't get enough of all the goodness that is you and all your expertise. What did you think of today's episode? If you loved today's episode, please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and let me know what was your golden nugget of today's episode. And make sure to head over to bit.ly/theperfectmorningritual to get access to how to create your perfect morning ritual with me. This freebie has a free checklist with several templates for you to create your perfect morning ritual, as well as a training video on how to build your own perfect morning ritual with me. And this is going to help supercharge your day so you can become more productive in less time. So set yourself up for success every single day and build your confidence with the perfect morning ritual for you. I will see you over there.